Having spent the last year, maybe two, looking at the continent of Antarctica using Google Earth Pro, I can tell you that those who say it's mostly wind, ice, rock, and snow are not being deceptive. It is. Those who say they have visited Antarctica have visited the Antarctic Peninsula. Maybe a couple of other small locations where their activities and movement have been very controlled and limited. We don't have that restriction using the satellite imagery, however. And there are things down there that cannot be explained by wind, ice, rock, and snow. And in today's video, we're going to go over the top 50. Now, it was hard. It really was to narrow it down to just those top 50. We're going to start someplace that I have yet to have any naysayer really make any good explanation for. And this is a place we've been before. The image here cannot possibly be anything other than some type of constructed building. I don't know how anyone could look at this image and see anything other than that. And the size is what is really striking about it. It's almost 2 kilometers wide. Now, the length of the shadow, that could be affected by the sun. So measuring the height of it might be, a little deceptive. We don't exactly know that angle. But there's really no other way to interpret this. It's some type of structure. And it's in a place. And of course, down in the description, as always, all of these locations will be there for you to go download Google Earth Pro for yourself and look at. There's nothing more that can really be said about this other than it's something they A, know about, and B, aren't telling us about. These locations, by the way, are in no real particular order. They are as I found them, and I'm just going to hop all over. I'm sure everyone is going to have their own opinion. Now, this is, of course, the Stargate. Just like from the series that we saw, I think it was art imitating life or soft disclosure, one of the two. But you have the round figure, you have the side supports, you have a stairway that leads up to it, you have what would be known as a unstable wormhole backblast area, whatever you want to call it, right here. You even have a platform up here where there could be a device that would control it. And when measured, it's virtually the same size as the one that they showed in the series. This is a region called the Mertz-Nennis Valley, and because this is so close, I'm going to go ahead and add this one in as a bonus location. Some people say that this is even a better find. With the sickle, the hood, the black robe. So many different things, and there's actually another one right beside it if you look closely. But we're not going to get too distracted because we're going to be here a while. To do 50 of these, if history holds, we're going to probably be here well over an hour. This is another one of those locations that you would have to zoom in very close to see. And use some techniques of light and shadow to illustrate what's being shown here. Very clearly, something is down there, and it's looking up. And it's got the elongated head, it's got the eyes, it's got the body. It's exactly like what you would describe a gray alien to be. This one was about the middle part of last fall. And it's pretty clear that this is a pyramid. It's kind of a three-level one, and in this particular one, many people don't realize this, that the pyramids that we see now weren't what they looked like when they were built. They were covered in white with electrum and gold caps on them. And this one appears to have that cap intact. Once again, the imagery shows things that can't be mistaken for anything else. These are ships. These are ships locked in the ice. You have the very clear bow structure. Anybody in the Navy could look at this and go, yeah, that's a carrier. That looks like some kind of a frigate or a destroyer. I mean, they're not ambiguous, especially this one. And once again, these aren't things that the military has claimed or anybody has made any kind of acknowledgement of. In this particular region, there's over here what looks like a sub that is stuck in this giant, I don't know what you want to call it. This is all frozen ice. The allegation that we've made is that there was an event that caused a very fast freezing that could have done something like this. This was one that was very recent. One of the 7 wonders of the ancient world is the Colossus of Rhodes. And this is a spitting image of what that looked like, size-wise and every other way. You can see the head. This particular one is holding a staff. There's its left leg. Seems to be holding a shield, a staff and a shield, which was in antiquity a lot more common than you would have thought than swords. Swords were somewhat of an expensive luxury in ancient times, and shields were much easier to make, as were staffs. If it seems like I'm going through this quickly, it's because we have a lot to cover, and this particular one was one of the more disturbing ones. I've seen a lot of images of Baphomet in my time, and this is about as close as you get. You can see the eyes, the ears, the very clear goat-like features, even literally with the goatee right down to it. I mean, anyone who would look at what we've just looked at, the first few, and said, yep, that's just all apophenia and pareidolia. I guess in all 50 cases, all 111,000 of us at the Florida Maquis are suffering from the same delusion. I guess it would be a record case of a mass delusion. Or maybe what we're seeing is what we're saying it is. Something other than what we're being told. Back in 2004, there was an incident with the Nimitz, and trained pilots reported seeing these white Tic Tac craft. That's what they described them as. Round, with no wings, no empennage, no visible thrust, no way that it should be flying. And here in this particular location, we see one of these on the surface of Antarctica, setting right near a cave. Literally the exact description of what 2 trained, experienced Navy pilots saw. And actually, it was a flight of 2, so technically it was 4. And there were 3 different radar units that picked these things up. A Hawkeye, from above, a destroyer, the Princeton from below, and the Nimitz itself, plus the radars on the aircraft and their gun cameras. And this is exactly what they saw. Now, here's where a lot of people said that they lost me, so to speak. Or I lost them, I guess. It was this talk of dragons. Dragons are more historically prevalent than just about any other creature, crypto creature, than you could imagine, even Bigfoot. Because the term encompasses a lot of different creatures. Insects, in some translations, large ones, were referred to as dragons. So were turtles. The Chinese refer to them as water dragons. Now, this is one of 5 major finds that are dragon related, and I'm just going to bring up an image. All of these locations I will give you, and these are the top 5. I wanted to do it this way just so you could see them all together in one place. The one in the middle, of course, is a frozen, what looks like dragon sculpture. The one in the upper left I have referred to as the quote-unquote sleeping dragon. I believe it's a living creature because of the coloration of the skin. The one in the upper right here I'll have referred to as a carved dragon because it looks like it was a carving that was made out of the stump of a giant tree that had fallen. Down here, this looks like a fossilized, sorry about that, skull that had lain in the ice for a long time and had been uncovered, resembling something like a giant Liopleurodon. And then the one that you just saw in the lower right here, I refer to as the maned, M-A-N-E-D, dragon, because it seems like it has a mane behind it. So that's what these are. And if they were going to be anywhere, this is where they would be. All right. Give me 1 second here to get the proper year. This was a region where we found 4 or 5 different things. But this giant ghostly figure, humanoid-looking figure, stuck out like a sore thumb. It's huge, whatever it is. But it's not alone. You see, right next to it here, we have what looks very much like, you can see the eye, the socket of the eye, the upper jaw, the mouth, the lower jaw, of what looks like some type of a serpent's head. And there's some type of a creature, something standing right next to it. I don't know if it's being uncovered, if it's being excavated, what's going on, but in a cave very near to it, we see strange images that almost look like the back of a cobra. Almost impossible to describe any other way than, I mean, you can't describe this as wind, ice, rock, and snow. I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you look at that and go, oh yeah, that's just what happens when the wind blows and it's cold and it's icy. It just turns into black, ghostly figures. This one, of course, is the one that caught probably the most attention recently. I won't say a whole lot about it because we've covered it ad nauseum. But once again, if you look at this, and you have the ability to with a laptop or a big desktop computer, some people have said that it looks, just like water or oil. If you look very, very closely up here, I've made the allegation this is the picture of a gorilla. Somebody's created this. It's a type of art. You can see the exact shape of the face of what a gorilla would look like holding, and what it looks like, a young one underneath. This is how they carry their young. They grab them in one arm and hold them underneath them, and this is how it would look. The detail on this is incredible. This was one that was harder to find, but when you saw it, it was undeniable. There was an explorer, I don't know if it was Bird or if it was someone else, that said that he had seen woolly mammoths in Antarctica. And here, strangely enough, you see a giant white tusk, giant front leg, what looks like the face of that creature, an ear. It looks like it has just come out of a cave or is in the front of a cave. Like I said, the amount of space underneath the ice down there is hard to imagine. Antarctica is larger than all of Europe, and the vast majority of it, is under miles of ice, but not solid ice. Ice with caverns, ice with caves, ice with huge openings that even science has reported, and we've covered this too many, many times, that down in those caves, because of the thermal vents, the temperature remains in the 70s Fahrenheit. That's all you would need. Freshwater, temperate climate. If you had animals and you had any kind of flora or fauna, which they have DNA for, it would grow, it would thrive. You don't need that much sunlight. Just enough. All right, this particular location is a little bit different. Let me see if I can get the right year. It is the location where we found what looks like something resembling the Baltic Sea anomaly, a craft we have seen over and over again. But in this particular case, we see it crashed on the surface here, and we can even see the skid where it came to rest. But more importantly, when you look closely, it looks like something left the craft and made a trail down to, and this is almost even more important, over here in the shadow of where there's no sunlight, there is some type of a building, some type of a structure that light is emanating out from underneath. I don't know how you explain that. I don't know how you would say that this is anything other than some type of an intelligent design. I don't know if this craft just came up short, that maybe somewhere over here there was a place for that craft to land and there was a problem. I mean, that's not sunshine. That light can't be accounted for. That's artificial light. Once again, in a location where no one is claiming that they have anything going on. This was one location that I found that I had to stare at for a long time because it has huge implications. What this looks like, and once you see it, it's hard to deny it. The image, the shaded image on the surface of the ice here, very much looks like a bowl, which that particular animal has been worshipped for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And we have two darker shadows that look humanoid that appear to be creating this image for some reason. Not only does this mean that there's inhabitants, this means that there's culture. Cultures that could be connected to ancient Rome, to Mesopotamia, to just about any culture, really. If you wanted to look close enough, you'll find someone somewhere venerating bulls. And in this particular case, if you look real close at the side, it looks like there is some type of a cut in the side of the bull, which would mean that it would be a sacrifice of a type. Whether this is artistry, whether this is shadow of actual activity, I really don't know how you look at this platform for sure and don't see something that'll make you think. Same thing here. This is a cave in an overhang very near to where we just were. And let me turn off that real quick so that you can get a real good look at this. That's created. There's really no possible way that anyone could look at this and say that this is how when the wind blows and ice and water mix and then the sunshine hits it and then this shadow and that shadow. Yeah, no, sorry. That's it's disturbing to say the least, but it's definitely a creation. Now we're back over near where we had seen those ships before. And over here, just laying on this rock, is something that should not be. To see curves and coils in something in Antarctica just doesn't seem like that would be possible. I've labeled this, of course, tentacle, and when I look at it, it is what it is. It's either some type of a serpent or some type of since it's surrounded by water, I don't know if this is some type of a leftover tentacle from a giant squid or what it is, but these curves are biological. These are not functions of how ice melts. Once again, not very far away. We see just about the same thing in the sense that it looks very biological. We have arms, heads, bodies. We have the tail. Whether this is some type of a dragon, some type of ancient dinosaur-like creature, ancient reptile, something that has evolved to adapt to living in an icy environment. I'm not sure what you would, what other allegation you would make. This is, of course, another location in what they call the Mertz-Nennis Valley, where we have found so many different things. And there's more to be discovered, and that's the best part about this. Even with all of these finds, there's still a great deal more to be discovered. This one was actually from 2018, but I think it bears looking at again, to be truthful. It is, of course, some type of remains of an ancient creature. What it is, I think, is up for speculation, but we have an eye, we have an upper jaw, we have a lower jaw, we have a whole body that just sticks out from everything around it, as far as coloration and texture, everything about it. We even have a lower fin. that we can see right here. There's been some type of a melt or some type of a landslide that has uncovered this. And it's, of course, in shadow, so it's very, very difficult to see. You wouldn't see this from high above. You would have to have a decent-sized screen with good resolution and be zooming down at a very close level to see this. There was a god in antiquity named Thoth that always was represented as having the head of a bird. Now, I'm not going to show every single image of a bird that we found in Antarctica because there are dozens. But I think this should probably convince anyone who was doubting that these people had some type of veneration for Thoth, or Thoth. That they're there, and they exist, or at least they existed in a way at an advanced enough level that they could create imagery and artwork that would last. I had made the allegation that on some of the maps there was this term Psittacorum regio, and many people thought that they were just referring to penguins. I made the allegation that I think that they were referring to the royal parrotfinch. Regio meaning royal, not region. And this image here looks a whole lot more like a royal parrotfinch than it would make sense that they would be looking at penguins and mistaking them for birds, actual flight parrots and birds, because that's what Psittacorum means. It means parrot. Alrighty. You'll have to pardon the red mark here. It was part of an arrow that I was drawing, and I had just not deleted the rest of it. But this looks like an ancient burial mound. You see above it there's a marker that I had wondered for a long time what the letters meant, and it's up here. It looks like almost the mathematical formula pi 2r when you see it here. Clearly it means something else because right below it that's a construction. That's a creation. That is how ancient man used to bury those that they venerated. They buried them in mounds. And there's no volcanic activity in this area. This isn't some kind of a volcanic vent. It's literally on the side of a cliff. There's been a giant ledge that has been built out the side of this cliff, and this has been created right here, probably to keep it from grave robbers, to be truthful. And when you look underneath here, you can see that this is probably where they entered and exited, the creators of this. We're up to, I don't even know if we're halfway through yet. Here we go. This is a recent one too. This giant footprint. Someone was very astute and noticed this mark here in the back of it that said that could be part of a dew claw. And I would have to tend to agree. It would also lend theory to whatever made this might be a flying creature. Because, we don't see the left, right thing. This thing might have just come down for 1 second and dropped a foot for one reason or another. Maybe to pick something up, and the other footprint could have been somewhere over here in the shadow. I find this image next to it very, very reminiscent of the images we see in Argentina and Chile. and Peru out in the desert that have lasted for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. This is very, very humanoid, whatever this is. Which is what you see just about everywhere. You look down here, you see things that you just can't mistake for just natural features. It just wouldn't make sense. This next location was actually brought to me by a viewer, Daenerys Draco, and once again, in the shadow, pretty clear. Turn the light up a little bit to make this easier to see. You have the head, you have the eyes, the nose, the cheek. You even have what looks like a hand pointing a finger. Get some more light on that. There we go. And trying to maybe point to something. I'm not exactly sure what. But who knows at this point, really? Because some of this almost looks like it's been covered up. We see that too in many other places. A lot of redaction. And next to this skull, there was something that I had wanted to mention a long time ago. Do you see the almost humanoid face here? With the horns? There's in Mecca, a place called the Kaaba, and it is a giant square, black square, that is venerated by Islam. Well, here we see what looks like a giant 3-story square building, just setting on the ice. Perfect as can be. With no way to really explain it by what's around it. It's just sitting there on the side of a mountain. And this is what makes this particular location so great, is that you can see it in direct contrast to what actually nature looks like. See, this is what a mountain looks like. This is what a ridge looks like. It's all uneven and it's got different colors to it. And it's just, very nature-like. But then you see this. Nature doesn't look like this. Nature doesn't cut itself out in squares. Man does that. This was another location that I had revealed recently, but had found a long time ago, of what looks like some type of an ancient creature that is being revealed due to the melting down there. You can see the spine, you can see the skull. It has almost a beak-like quality to it, like we had talked about turtles being referred to as dragons, water dragons. This might be some ancient version or a larger version of that. You can see the front, what would be the front flipper that would be reminiscent of a snapping turtle. You can almost even see the shell. A lot of this is covered up, but this is part of the unexpected consequences of the warming that we're going through. And I believe it's mostly natural. I believe it's part of a cycle that we go through, and that we should be more focused on adapting to it and taking advantage of the positives of it. And this is one of them. What's happening down there in Antarctica. In fact, there's an article out now, you can go find it, that Christmas Eve was the largest melting event in Antarctica in history. I can't wait for the 2020 imagery to come out and see what's been uncovered. Now this is probably, of all of the finds, the oldest. An emerald Washington monument, no lie. It is a giant emerald obelisk. sticking up out of the ice. The measurements are almost identical to our Washington Monument. It's really an incredible thing. I haven't talked about it in a long time. That's why I included it. It's really something to see. Okay, this is not a one location thing. This is a region that I've called Ancient Manhattan. And when you look at this, you can see the footprints of buildings where they used to stand and the raised area where the streets were. This area literally looks like the island of Manhattan if you scooped up all the buildings and only left the footprints of the buildings. You can see here, this is very clearly a constructed port, with a secondary area here for loading and unloading. The angles are just too perfect. This looks exactly like what, honest to God, Manhattan Island would look like if you lifted off all the buildings. Now this next one is a little bit, I don't know what the word I want to use is, more archaeological. There is a giant valley that goes between these two sections of rock right here. And there has been constructed a walkway to go from one to the other. Hand of man, for sure. That's not natural. Whatever cut these two rocks apart, whatever force, this has been mitigated by whatever society lived down here. And you can also see right around here that this is almost, it looks like a Roman road. It really does. This is a well-traveled path that perhaps, if they had made the right turn here, through here was some type of a shortcut, perhaps to head off in this direction. Or to get up on the plateau, you came up through here, and then you could cross over this way. Or vice versa, if you were coming from this direction, this was the easy way around. And along that same line, this is an area that I've referred to as Crossroads of the Ancients. And you can see roads. You can literally see the remnants of roads. It's kind of hard to show because of the way the light is. But you can see the perfect, like right here. Look, 90 degrees, 90 degrees, 90 degrees. This looks like this could be a city or some area in our suburbs out in the county where they divide up county roads by 1 mile blocks. And these roads go for a long way, far off into the distance. And it's only because of the layer of snow that you can really see them in relation to the rock. This was another find from a viewer. And this probably shows more evidence of modern man doing something down there, because it very much has the appearance here that this is some type of a jet aircraft that we would know of, flying out of one of these underground caves. I don't think it's a either or thing down there. I think there's evidence for ancient man. I think there's evidence for a culture that is still thriving. There's evidence for modern man doing things down there that they're not talking about. There is archaeological evidence for creatures that heretofore we don't know about. So it makes the area so exciting. This was one of the strangest images I found. I mean, the detail on this is pretty close. I mean, this looks like a goblet, like the nose of a goblin shark. You can see the eye, you can see the mouth, the teeth. It looks like it has something in its jaws. I'm not sure what it is, but man, if this is a trick of the camera, boy, that's one heck of a, camera anomaly. And it's much larger than any goblin shark, but it definitely looks like something frozen in the eyes. And we covered this one recently, so I won't spend a whole lot of time on it, but anybody in the South will know exactly what this head is. You can go out just about any night in Georgia, Florida, Mississippi, Louisiana, and see these things swimming around everywhere. This is exactly what gator heads look like. And someone had mentioned before that there's also someone standing over here. It's exactly what it looks like too. And probably the most recent thing that we've talked about is this pretty much speaks for itself. If I have to explain this, then you're willingly trying to be obstinate and not see it. In, I think it was my most recent video, I pointed out 10 different facial features. People talk about the face on Mars or the third phase of moon face, and I'm not taking anything away from those things. They're great finds. But as far as a detailed face, you will not find one more detailed than this. Now this find is different in the sense that it represents evidence, larger evidence for a culture. And I have to find the right year to make this look right. There is a huge port structure that is inexplicable just about any other way down here, and it only shows up in a couple of years to see it the right way. So you'll have to bear with me for just a minute. Here it is. Do you see this giant cut port? This thing is miles long. 3 miles, over 3 miles from the opening here to this right turn. And I mean, an incredible distance wide. I mean, to construct something like this and maintain it would have taken an enormous effort. Give me 1 second, I kind of lost my place here. Okay, alrighty. Okay, got it. This is basically a graveyard, what I'm showing here. This is the reclining skeleton of a giant. You can see the head, the eye sockets, the skull. You can see the collarbone. It looks like the arms are folded. You can see the legs down here are folded. It almost, and I noticed something, it looks like there's a secondary skull that was put in with this one, because you can see the 2 eyes here. And if that doesn't convince you what's going on here, look at that next to it. The long skull, 2 more eye sockets, the jaw. You put those 2 images side by side. I mean, I suppose some people could say, yeah, that's just how snow looks. I don't know. I've seen a lot of snow. Never seen it look like that. Alrighty. 1 second. Okay, this was right near the coast, and this perfectly square greenish image showed up. And when you zoomed in, very clearly the Eye of Horus. If you're asking me how this was done or what exactly this is, that's tough. This is a tough one, but I know what that image is. For sure. And what all this red is, this is a very, very strange region that I'm still in the process of looking at. Because there's so much here that is almost inexplicable. Like even down here. What looks like a perfect round saucer craft. And I know it seems like I'm going through this quick. I'm just, we're almost pushing an hour. Okay, we covered this recently too. You can see what looked like two, and this is the best term I could think of, some type of generator craft. These things almost look like they have wheels because you can see the smoke coming out of them and you can see the people standing next to them. I mean, and zoomed out in the region, it just sticks out. It's just not natural. There's nothing about this is natural. Somebody's fired up some kind of a combustion engine here and is using it for something. I don't know what, but now this one goes back a ways. This next one. This is a jet. Whose jet? Who built it? Where we got it? I don't know, but the kicker about this one is that whoever was in charge of this satellite imaged this area twice in a very short time trying to find this. You can see the left wing here. You can see the nose here. Whatever this craft was, it had engines, pods that mounted top of the rear wings. You can even see the vertical stabilizers back here. And there's something behind it right here that's kind of hard to put your finger on what it is, but it's, once again, also not natural. Once again, evidence from the melting. Very clearly, the bow of a ship. You can even see right here, modern ships have this thing that we were introduced to back in the investigation into the Fitzgerald when we talked about the ACX crystal. This bulbous bow, this breaker bow that down here that breaks up the waves and helps the efficiency of the craft. You can even see evidence for that down here. Somehow this has come out through the ice, and the wind has blown its way around this. This next one is probably the simplest of all finds. I'd like someone to explain to me how wind, ice, rock, and snow just makes the number 3. How something like this could just occur on its own. An Arabic numeral 3. And if you look closely, you can almost see an 8 next to it. Now, this could just be the walls and foundations of a house. Okay, let's go ahead and just make that. It's basically the same allegation. All right, this was actually a region that was brought to me by Hypnotech, and he was looking at this platform up here, which by itself is an incredible find. But that is the sculpted head of a Viking. And in the video that covered this, I don't remember the man's name. It began with an H. It's the spitting image of him. It's one of the last two Viking kings. But this platform right next to it is just as good a find. And up here, there is also something else going on that I even missed in the last time I looked at this. It's the side of a cliff, and this thing is literally set so that the light hits it on the side of a cliff. And down here, if I remember right, that's right, there was a parked craft. There's stuff down here that's glowing that shouldn't be in this region, and I'll let you look closer at it. But once more, we have one of these constructed platforms as well. And if that Viking isn't good enough for you, there's another one in a whole nother part back in the Mertz Valley. And this is the other Viking king, where you can see the beard, the nose, the eyes, the helmet set on the side of a cliff. I mean, one? Okay, that's maybe just coincidence. Two? No. And we're going to finish off here. We got, I think, 3 more places to go. This was one of the clearest skulls that we ever found. I mean, this one has it all. The giant elongated head, the brow ridge, the eye, the nose, the lower jaws even here. This is a complete skull. And it wasn't even the first thing that I saw when I looked here. Tell me this doesn't look like some type of a deer-like creature, seated in its front leg and its rear leg. I mean, it's just unbelievable imagery. I mean, I don't know how you miss that. And if that skull wasn't good enough for you, how about this one? This one actually got picked up by, let me see if I can get this zoomed around the right way here. Some major newspapers around the world. Once again, the elongated head, the shape of the eyes. Over and over and over again, we see the same thing. A whole reclined skeleton, plus these two, plus many others I didn't even include. And I think we are at the very last image. This is the Cyclops. This giant, huge megalith, where you can see the one brow ridge, the eye, the nose, you can see the mouth, the chin. I didn't include the face from Third Phase of Moon because that wasn't one of my finds. And the finds that were brought to me by Hypnotech, those are his finds. That's, something that I think should probably be done more prevalently. And a lot of my stuff was taken by other channels and talked about, and these channels are enormous, 700,000-800,000 views, sometimes more subs. And as far as credit goes, I think at this point, a lot of you do a real good job of saying, hey, this is a Florida Maquis find. Hey, this is something we saw in Florida Maquis. That's great. And some of these channels, if I think I were of a different political opinion, would do a lot better job of giving me credit. And that, don't think that doesn't have something to do with it. It does. It really does. And I'm not going to change my opinion about things just to get more views and just to get more people to like me. Because if I were worried about that, I would have never looked into Antarctica. Ever. At least not at this level. Because when I started, just like with the Fitzgerald and just like with Venezuela, everybody was attacking. Everybody was telling me how crazy I was and how my channel was going to fail and how they were going to laugh when I wasn't on YouTube anymore. And it is. This is like the third time. It really was. It was the third time that this happened. And looking at the facts of Venezuela, we were right. And looking at the facts of the Fitzgerald, and that was a rough one. That was really rough to see people treat our sailors that way. Even talk radio had to shut up about it because they realized how badly they messed up. And it's too bad that it took the death of the sailors on the McCain to make people believe that what was happening with the Fitzgerald was not an accident. And then here as well. Because Google Earth Pro had been out for a long time. A long time. And people had looked at certain things from very high above. But nobody had bothered to get down in the detail level and do the hard work of spending the hours and hours and hours pulling these images out. And I think it made some of them very angry that I was able to do it, that we were able to do it. And show it in a way that people could see it and people could understand it. I don't know if it was regret or what it was, but we caught a lot of heat. But not anymore, because the images are out now. And it's funny looking for images now to make thumbnails and to put the ideas of Antarctica together, to go to Google now and see my own stuff. They'll suggest my images, but they won't suggest my videos, which is hilarious. You can go and Google like Nephilim Antarctica or Civilization Antarctica, and in the first 3 or 4 rows, you'll see stuff right from my channel. People have even stolen my my banner photo from my channel and used it for other things. And Google allows that, but no mention of the Florida Maquis or my YouTube channel, which is fine. And, running up on an hour here, I guess I'll just leave with this. And this is for a lot of you out there that are listening that are channel operators. YouTube wants you to believe that the best way to grow and run a channel is to find out what your audience wants and likes, and then do that. Pretty much let your audience run the channel. That doesn't work. Because eventually, too many people will want too many different things, and you'll never know what direction to go. The vast majority of my views on YouTube come from non-subscribers. I know that seems like that's a hard thing to wrap your mind around. There are more people on YouTube looking for content to attack than there are people looking for content to agree with. There are vast amounts of viewers that just come to YouTube to find something that they think they can pick apart. Something that they think that they can make themselves smart by demeaning or destroying. And they are running up numbers on channels all over the place. Clicking over and over again, starting arguments and baiting people. So, I guess I will leave it with that truth. If you want the numbers, be controversial. Like, share, subscribe.